Good morning. It feels like it's been forever, only because the last 3 days I have been... I think this mic's too low. I have been, honestly, living a life absolutely filled with comfort and pleasure. So, before we continue on that, I'm going to do the word of the day. I'm actually excited for this. Yesterday was my rest day. I didn't go to the gym. Actually, I did a lot of... Excuse me. A lot of side work for my 3/4s. And so, I'd, weave down, then swing, or pretend to swing. And that actually, left my sides really sore. So, I actually took a rest day at home. But, again, the word of the day. The word is rental, R-E-N-T-A-L. Rental, it's a noun. It is an amount paid out or taken in as rent. It is 2, an act of renting. It is 3, property rented, rental. An amount paid out or taken in as rent, an act of renting or property rented. You know, the idea of rent has been around for such a long time. Dating all the way before BC, before Seneca. And I am realizing as I consume more and more media, all I did these last 3 days, I have to say honestly, and it might sound really counterproductive to where I want to be. Especially since I've been going to the gym for 2 months. But I'm doing it early on in the process, especially now. You might say, I have evidence in the past. No. You have to have current evidence, especially pertaining to how my body is now. And especially now that I'm no longer off in a different city away from my family. Rather, I'm with my family trying this again. Especially without academia. Because it's different environments, different conditions, different variables. And a lot more different knowledge that I've learned. And it was only these 3 days, but these 3 days really nailed it in place. I'm not going to say nailed it down, but nailed it in place. And it would nail it down if I just gave up completely, but I'm not going to give up completely. I just need to nail it in place and let it be known. Allow it to be known. Regardless, what these 3 days did was I showed up to the gym. I worked out perfectly okay. And then I proceeded to go home and I post my audios. And afterwards, I've been looking for a job. I will say I have a job interview this upcoming Monday. So I'm grateful for that. I'm absolutely grateful for this opportunity. Because I do feel like I have qualifications to make me a great candidate to go ahead and teach and coach and implement into a company, because I have the willingness to be taught, the willingness to be open-minded, the idea that I don't know everything, especially when it pertains to, I'm going to put in quotations, the real world, because I have been on this whole entire side of just theoreticals. Okay, we're getting way ahead of myself. What these last 3 days were was go to the gym, post the audios, and then disregard everything pertaining to my goals and allow my body to regress into what it knows defaultly without taming myself or allowing the vision I have of my future self to really settle inside my mind. Really go ahead and be the forefronting thought No, I completely turned off my mind. I was just like, excuse me. Life is perfect as is. And I don't need to work on anything. And life is great and this and that as is, without the idea of improvement. And when you mindlessly go through, or for my sake, actually, I can't speak for other accounts, because that's just not, I can't speak for other accounts. I can only speak for my personal account. What that consisted of was not cooking, just eating quick food, like cereal. We're just consuming the easiest form of calories possible in the house. Understanding that, I can see why there's a ton of sweets in the house, because when there's nothing for me to, or I force myself to cook, I'm just eating a whole fucking row of Oreos. I'm eating half a bag of chips. I'm just chowing through this stuff, mindlessly munching through it. And I don't feel full, and so it's just constantly being carved up. And, the lack of protein I felt, and I noticed it in a moment, where I was like, man, I'm really just eating this stuff. I was like, but if I ate my meal prep that I cooked, where it was like a decent amount of food, I was so full. I was like, I can't eat for another. And there was like, and you got to eat again to eat my macros. And this is less calories than if I had half a plate of, this is equivalent to a plate of chips, and I could fuck up 2 of those. Holy shit. Those are some mindful things, but I continued forward. And I continued forward doing this, and I would mindlessly, I'm eating all this stuff, and then I'm TMI here, going to the restroom more often than I'd like to, and it just felt like, dude, I'm just in the restroom constantly. I was like, this is not great. And when you're in the restroom and you're sitting there doom scrolling, it just gets repetitive and gets looping, and you're just like, your sense of time gets lost. But not in the sense of something when you're passionately doing it. No. It's, these last 3 days are such a blur and such consistently the same that I don't realize it's already Friday when I started doing this week. And I'm like, oh shit, where'd all the time go? Yesterday for my rest day, I remember, especially since I didn't go to the gym or anything, I was just mindlessly consuming without creating, without reflecting on my reading as avidly, or understanding that I am working on something that is greater than this current moment and planning for the future. It went from, I woke up at 7 in the morning to I was sitting at my computer and it was 2 p.m. and I just don't remember anything that happened between those 2 times. All I remember is I got up, I watched Instagram Reels, I was playing video games, and I was playing Deadlock. And I'm telling you now, when I am not consciously and actively trying to improve in the game, well, I just fucking lose. I'm talking like a 25% win rate. I play 16 matches, I've only won 4 of them, and it's not 4 consistent ones in a row. No. I go on a 3 losing streak, then I win 1, then I go on a 3 losing streak, and that does not help your mind at all. And well, when you're just mindlessly consuming, and you're just letting this be pent up, and you're just like, it's whatever. It's not whatever action it may be, it's not whatever. Especially when I spent about 2 or 3 weeks avidly, every single game, consciously, like 2 hours, I'm just focused on this, and it feels like it's just, wow, like, why am I not improving? Like, I should be so higher. But then I understand, like, no, because to consciously improve, I need to work on an aspect of the game that needs improvement. I'm not improving because I'm just playing exactly the same without mindfully thinking. I'm consuming without mindfully thinking. Consuming created this blur in my life. This blur where time just ceased to really feel long. And yesterday, I was like, okay, I need to tap out of this. I can't do this anymore. or I won't do this any longer. Not that I can't do this anymore, but I'm choosing to do this no longer. And so, what did I end up doing? I was like, okay, I'm mindlessly consuming. Okay, now I'm going to read, and now I'm actually going to incorporate this into my life. I'm reading and incorporating. And suddenly, now it goes from, hey, it's 2:15, and I'm reading, and I'm reflecting as I'm reading. And I look up at the time, I was like, dude, this has felt like an eternity. It's only 2:52. And I'm like, wow, I remember more in this 40 minutes of reading, 40-ish minutes of reading, than I do my morning. Yesterday was my rest day. After, before 2, I remember more, and I understand how this is so much more, I want to say fulfilling, because there's the consciousness behind it compared to the other acts. The awareness actually is what I should be saying. I was aware that I was reading. I was aware that I was reflecting. I was aware that I'm incorporating this for this bigger vision that I have for myself. Where I want to be physically, where I want to be financially, where I want to be, spiritually. And I just felt so I don't want to say, actually I'm going to use the word enlightened. Because to know that I lived a life like that, and now that I have the awareness to understand that life with just the mind is thought that I should be somewhere else, but without actually working towards that goal, by changing it up, by doing something different, that I believe was just is an illusion. It was this illusion that I believed, and this sort of entitlement. It is an entitlement that has been instilled into my mind somewhere along the lines, where it should just come to me because I'm wishing for it. It's like a laughable joke. But where in my storyline did this come from? Where did I get this perception that all is okay, that it'll come to me like that? It came from somewhere. And I want to say, the blame is on me for taking that in. There had to be an experience that reinforced that thought. But I want to believe, and I want to say, that it's been social media that's really done that etching into my narrative, that it should come to me easy, since I am, what am I? Someone, like, it just comes naturally, like, oh, like, it's just, life's unfair, this and that. No. Life is actually, I'll say life is unfair. Life is unfair. That statement I cannot change. But I believe the unfairness in life is a mindset. Because it comes from something being unfair, comes from the idea of being comparative with someone else's experience, or what someone else has. And I want to say, and I read it, and it's been reinforced a bit. And even all the social media posts that I see, I read it in the books, I've seen it on social media, and it's an eternal fear that I've mentally exercised with myself, is that money does not get rid of your problems. No, it just alters what problems you will have. Because when you have an immense amount of money, suddenly, people will change up on you. because you have money. The same way changing your physique, people will change up on you. And I mentally exercised this the other day as I told myself, I need to have this vision for what I want to be, what I want to go ahead and achieve. And when I sit here and I think of my dream physique, and I ask myself, what is it that doesn't allow me to commit to this dream physique? And it's the backlash that I might get from people as they try to change my life. Truth, it's honestly true. Because if I tell my parents, like, no, I don't want to eat any more sweets, like, this is this is who I am. The amount of shit talking that comes from someone that I've loved in that sense, the sacrifice that will come, the experiences that I'll have, the sacrifice of comfort. I'm not sacrificing them. No. I'm sacrificing my comfort by not following the script they have in their mind of me. And that does a number. That's, I'm not going to say holding me back because that sounds like excuses. But it's the price I have to pay in order to get to the point I want to be at. And that's okay. I keep on referencing the books that I've read. And It Takes What It Takes, again, by Trevor Moawad. I came across these books because they were one in my house, and the title really clung to me. It's just the wording of the title. But it's the cost that I have to go ahead and do. And the mental conditioning that goes with it too is very, very important. Because when you don't have your mind active in these arts of, I want to say, reformation, and you'll revert back to your old ways. It is a conscious, continuous effort. And it is like on loop. It's on repeat. It is your internal dialogue repeating and looping inside your mind. And as you continue to loop that idea, that is really the form of, or the first real step in change that isn't physical and that a lot of people do not see. And so now, I'm trying to turn back on my record player, that was internally sitting inside my mind. And I wrote it down where I know, like, my physique goal is not going to come to me immediately tomorrow. It might not come to me at the end of this year, and it might not even come to me at the end of next year. It won't be visibly seen. But if I continue the loop inside my mind, and I continue the actions behind that loop that my body knows it wants to do, because I know when I don't follow those actions, when I have the loop playing, it leads to this sort of what I called it before, masculine aggression to do something. And if I don't act upon that quote-unquote masculine aggression, it's not that it leads towards anger. No. It's not that it leads towards, like, physical anger, more than less. But internally, I understand that it's wasted potential on the inside. Because I didn't go ahead in my day, work towards that goal, and it's aggravating. But there's no one else to blame but yourself. Myself. And so, I am grateful for these last 3 days where I lived this complete, quote-unquote, pleasureful lifestyle. But it is truly, truly boring, groggy, I feel like a pile of goop is the best way to put it. Of a puddle of mush in this absolute sense of pleasure. There is no form of rigidness that a challenge will give a person. That hardening of your skin, of your emotions, of your mind, that sharpening that comes with it. Because with just absolute pleasure and the ability to completely almost do whatever you want, you are just completely thicket and stagnant water. And it doesn't feel as beautiful as the challenge. Pleasures in moderation is okay. Again, my previous, instead of setting every single day, for 8 hours a day, or playing video games. No. But when I sat there and I played 2 forms of video games, typically that's seen as a form of pleasure, playing video games. And it is still a form of pleasure for me. It's a form of pleasure. This going to the gym is a form of pleasure and discipline and challenge at the same time. Why? Because I understand that when I come to the gym, there's alone time away from everything. And when I come to the gym, the challenge of working on my body, putting myself into positions that are uncomfortable, builds upon me. Playing video games where I have a goal in mind, where I'm consciously working towards something, is still a form of pleasure. Why? Because I get to sit inside a house that, is away from the sun. And yeah, I get it. I might lose my 2 games. And that might seem frustrating to other people. But if the point of my games was not necessarily to win, but rather to focus on, let's say, my communication with my team. Hey, actually trying to cooperate with my team. And I actually was able to do that. And although we cooperated, we still lost. That's still a win in my books. Me posting my videos, okay, it's another form of pleasure. Why? Well, I get to have a online backup in addition to my local backup, and it's quote unquote uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable because I have to post my progress, post the sort of hidden work that happens along these journeys. And I have to be okay with other people hearing myself talk. Especially as someone who has been their whole life an introvert. I'm not going to say that's going to change suddenly either. I am very much an introvert. And as much as people see me come up and talk to people, it takes an enormous amount of internal effort to understand that this discussion will be beautiful, will be rewarding, because I get to break out of my mold. I get to talk to another person. And I sit at home, oh man, I really wish I could talk to more people. But it's that fear of taking that leap to talk to someone else too. Or not fear, rather discomfort. And let me not use the word fear, discomfort. Reading out loud. Why am I reading out loud? Because I got to go ahead and practice actually speaking out loud. I'm going to have to speak to other people. I have to be able to say some words. I might be put on the spot for a potential job where I need to read something out loud to a client, where I need to read something at a meeting, where I need to go ahead and do something like that. And my parents have to hear me talk. My siblings have to hear me talk. Reading out loud. Drawing. I've seen on social media that there are a lot of people who can draw better than me. But I realized again that I won't get any better at it if I don't do it. It's a part of doing. Just continuously do. And I want to say this as well too. Like, the book Anti-Fragile made two interesting points in these last few times that I read it. That people will, quote unquote, read books, then have ideas. Or is it that people have ideas and they read books and the books validate those ideas? And that goes ahead and moves them with a bit more confidence. Reading that made me go, okay, that's true. Like, I know I needed to go ahead and fix my finances, so I picked up a book on budgeting, but I budgeted before, and I wanted it to act as a reinforcement and a statement to say, well, yeah, of course I, learned how to budget. I read this book on it. Because the book acts as another form of validation to support the actions that I'm taking without another person. And why would I need that validation? Well, because when you do it without someone else backing you up, you're a little insane. And now I understand that it's okay to go ahead and do something without someone else backing up, without a book behind it. Because if I believe it's a grand idea and it fits the model that I need to go ahead and do, that's okay, then I can stick with it. And another point that the book made is the art of doing. Just simply performing. And that as you perform, as you occur, you might go ahead and fuck up along the process. But that's okay, because the fuck-ups teach you what doesn't work, and what doesn't work, well, you now know for certainty and will not do. Alright. I'm gonna leave it off there. Actually, my car's getting cold. I just left this on low, and that's probably my problem here. And I do gotta work out. But actually, it's fine. You know what? It's fine, because I do have things planned. But it's okay, because I showed up at the right time. But these last 3 days, I don't look at them as setbacks. I look at them as reinforcement steps for this grand journey. And I understand I'm currently 22. And my age is 22. I've been on this planet, I've went around the earth 22 times. Or the sun, what the fuck. And soon I'll be 23. My goals are larger than just being within a year. And they will take time. The bigger goals, and I have to understand that those are big goals, so I have to set micro ones along the way that keep on directing me in an appropriate direction. So I'm gonna pick up drawing again. It's something I put down. I'm gonna pick it up again. I'm actually just gonna draw again. Whatever it may be, whatever I feel like. I'm going back to limiting the amount of video games I can play, sitting at my desktop. I'm going to go ahead. Rather than saying I'm going to, it's like I am drawing consistently each day. I am restricting the amount of time on my desktop for video gaming. I am. The act of doing it now. I'm going to write about my experiences through poems, through short stories, through something that feels a little bit more tangible. The art of doing. Although I've watched many, many hours of technical analysis of fighting games and this and that, You don't know until you're actually the one behind the controller playing it, sitting in that chair next to someone else. I can understand like what's happening and what's going on and this and that outside of the game, outside of the box, not being in the box. Yeah, this is grand, crazy. I'm actually blessed, and thank you for listening. This is like an important one for me. Every moment is, to be honest. I'm grateful to be alive and breathing and seeing what I see. Yeah. Whew. Alright, I finished my workout. And I sat here for a moment. I realized, like, the greatest factor here, consistently doing something, is time. It's just a matter of time. Because if I continue to eat the same way I wasn't gaining weight excessively. It was like a main gain type of weight. And so if I continued to eat the same way and I started working out, I would put myself in a calorie deficit because I was always maintaining my weight. And people say maybe that the logic is ill, and that's possibly true, but it's something that I think about, or just thought about. So yeah. Anyways, the word of the reflection. Ooh, this first page is really, really, really getting torn up. I'm debating if I just start reading off this page. It would be a lot of I words, is all I gotta say. Well, actually, we're just gonna do the first word. Possibly go ahead and just get this page out of the way and knocked out for the next couple ones. So, the first word is infect. I-N-F-E-C-T. It is a verb, infect. It is 1, to contaminate with pathogenic microorganisms. 2, to communicate a disease to. 3, to affect as if by contagion. Hold on. Contagion. C-O-N-T-A-G-I-O-N. Contagion. That's correct. I have not got to that word. I like contagious. Contagion. Crazy. His laughter infected us all. Now, it comes from the Latin word inficere. I'm assuming. Not good to assume. But it's I-N-F-I-C-E-R-E. Infecere. I don't even know, bro. It sounds like a spell. But it means to work in, dye, taint. Possibly a word they used when they were making cloths or rugs or blankets or etc. So yeah, pretty grand, pretty great. Alrighty, time to drive home and reflect on my workout. Today was legs. That was my compound movement. It's my squats. So, first start off with cardio because that's a different element that I haven't done over the years of working out. Although my body doesn't look like I've worked out. I've been in the gym quite a bit. So I incorporated cardio I'm at a 2.7, 5.5 on the treadmill when I do my standard walk. Although it's not really a standard walk if it's boxing-like movements. I don't want to say it's boxing, but it's boxing-like movements, but it's a lot of arm stretching, arm mobility movements. And as the first 10 minutes, next 10 is a lot of bobbing and weaving, a lot of moving with my core and my hips. And the last 10 is a combination of the two and just standard walking. So yeah, they're great. And then I went into squats today. And I want to say I felt like I did amazing. Truly. Absolutely phenomenal. That scared me for a moment. Yeah, I did with just the bar solely, just mentally prepare. Threw on a plate in 10. And then I was like, okay, I have to be heavier than last time. I got to go ahead and progressively overload. So, last week, I did 175. This time, I threw a plate in 25. That threw me to 185. So, I was like, alright, let's see. I did that for 4. I was like, great. Actually, I feel pretty damn good. I think I'm going to add a bit more weight. So I added 5 pounds to both sides, or a total of 10 pounds. I went to 195 and did 4 of those. I was gassed after those 4. I sat there for a moment, or rather looked at the weights and was like, maybe I could throw more on. But I also understood I just gassed myself with these last 4. And if I go ahead and put these on the bar, I increase the chance of injury because I'm already out of breath. I probably already shot all the there's no way I shot all the glycogen in my legs, but I knew that picking it back up was going to be a different form of struggle, and so I was alright, let me go ahead and take off the 25, so it was a plate in 10, and I did that for another, I think I did that for 6. I recorded it down. Actually, no, it's a lie. I was going to pick it up, and I felt the weakness in my calves, hamstring, and quads for a moment, where it's like, oh, the power drive up is really lacking here. So I went and took off the 10, did a plate, and I did a plate for 6. And then I took off the plate and did just the bar for 6. And I might say, wow, that's not as intense as last week, as the numbers were. I was doing like 8 reps of each. No, but it was a heavier overall weight. I moved up from 175 to 195. I went up a whole 20 pounds on a squat. That is beautiful. And for 4 reps, it wasn't a single rep, So, do I have more in the tank to, do an actual 1 rep max? Possibly. But I'm not too surprised, because at one point, and I don't count it too often, only because it was on a Smith machine and not free weight, so that's why I'm slowly approaching this differently, was I did 2 plates on a Smith machine, 4 reps, and like 8 reps. But it also was not flat-footed, it was also on an incline, so I would put a plate down on the ground, and it was close-legged. So I know I can get up to 2 plates. Everything beyond 2 plates is uncharted territory. And that's beautiful. The guy next to me was doing 3 plates. I was like, whoa. Yeah, there's layers to this. But again, I want to say it's not only the top bar that needs to move. It's also my bottom bar. What weight can I do for the most reps over time? You know, the ones that are like my high rep count. A high rep, you know, is like 10. We moved to maybe to like 15. And Tom Platz, again, volume. Volume is not just the shoot it for the highest number, but if you want big legs, you go ahead and do a high amount of volume. Now, I do want bigger legs, but I also want the strength behind those legs. Same thing applies with the arms, with everything. And I also came to the conclusion in my mind that the weight on the scale does play a factor. I'm not going to discredit that weight. I still will record my weight. But what I'm going to bias heavier on for my progress is the overall comparison videos week to week. So the same day I go ahead and check my body weight, I want to go ahead and also record a physique check to see physically the changes that are occurring and to have to look back. That's what I mean, retrospectively. Because if I go week by week, I'm not going to notice those big jumps. But if I go ahead and show a progression, you know, I put all the videos together in a fast, you know, time-lapsed video, then I'll see the progress is like, whoa, slowly chipping away, slowly slicing off the salami from my body. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go ahead and do. Again, last 3 days, if anyone was just measuring, how do I say this? If I cling on to what I did these last 3 days and told myself, like, wow, you really fucked up and it was a Debbie Downer the whole fucking time, I'm not going to progress fucking forward. I'll tell you that. So I just, like, throw it in the bag, throw it in the tricks that I learned. Like, that's not what I want. You know? And how do you get away from what you don't want? Well, whatever you're doing now is not what you want, so don't do what you've been doing. And you're like, well, I don't know what else to do. Experiment. Try different things. You never know what might work, what might stick, what will become a preference. Oh, what's that? So, truly beautiful. Truly beautiful. And yeah, so squats are great on that part. I also did calf raises. Yes, that's what I said I was also going to be doing. I did seated calf raises, and it was where I only used the plate. Yeah. Could be my mom. I was like, I just saw her. I was like, what are we? I was like, she's gonna drive away right now. So I'm not gonna go ahead and lock her out, but that's where I'll sit for a minute. And I only did 45 pounds on each side. Oh, not each side. Yeah, on each side of my legs, but only with one plate. And so it's asymmetrical if I just left it on one side. So I had to alternate. So I did 4 sets. You know, the plate on the left side for 2, plate on the right side for 2, and I did them alternating, so left, right, left, right. And I also hunched over my body. Over my calves, over my body, overall. To really load the calf in the movement. And then between each of my sets, I also stand up and actually focus on the long stretch. So I go over the back side of the calf machine and allow my body to stretch my calf in the negative to feel really good pull and tension there while I work on my calves, and it was pretty all right. I possibly could have left the 25-pound plate that was on the machine, but regardless, I did calves. Compared to the other days when I haven't done it, a little bit is better than nothing. Yeah, that was my reflection. That was my grand ooh-ah. And I will say something else. I was actually quite hungry while working out. And I want to say it's because I have not been eating protein-dense foods. Again, I was waking up, I was coming back from the gym, eating cereal. And then lunch came, and then I was like, alright, let's eat whatever sweets there are in this cabinet with milk. And I'm lactose intolerant, just so you know, but it's like lactate milk, so it's not. It doesn't matter. I'm still using the restroom pretty fucking damn often. So TMI. I grew up I was not always lactose intolerant, but I love milk. I have to eat less dairy products. I have dairy relief pills, or lactase enzymes, pills. Regardless, reducing the amount of dairy in my diet is overall going to be beneficial. Although dairy is a good source of protein. Also is slightly fat dense. So yeah. Now, although I have a job interview upcoming, still going to apply and look for other jobs. I still have applied to other jobs, actually. It's not just like I applied to one. I applied to about... Is it 10 now? 10 jobs? Yeah, about 10 jobs. Pretty beautiful. Pretty great. And yeah. Again, grateful for the job opportunity I have on Monday. Monday, I actually will go to the gym a lot earlier in the morning. Or I don't want to say I want to skip out, but I'll push the gym till after my job interview. So I can still lift heavy, so it doesn't feel too rushed. Now, that's what it's kind of looking like. So I could spend the morning preparing for this job interview to show up in my A game. Because this is my first impression, this is my first time meeting them. You should always give your A game on your first impressions. And that being said, you should dress well when you go out in public. I'm speaking to myself here. And dressing well is subjective. It's, again, everything about your character, your passions, what story you want to go ahead and present to other people. Alrighty. Time to go eat. Time to go drink creatine. Actually, we're still doing that though. I did not stop my creatine. I believe I am going to start taking 1 gram with every 16 ounces of water throughout the day rather than slamming a full 5 grams in one single segment. It's going to probably make my water a lot chalky and make me go bleh. But I feel like that might be more efficient and will get me to drink more water rather than slamming all 5 grams. It means I got to go ahead and put timers throughout the day telling me to go ahead and drink more creatine. So I have wow, I have scheduled drinking water times. Let's go. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. Thank you for listening. This one's going to be long. It's going to be a 50-minute long one. Whoa. But I'll go ahead and get that done right now. Because if I learned anything over the last 3 days, doing it right in the morning, well, quote-unquote frees up time. Because the other days I realized that since I would leave it until the end of the day, I would be a lot more aware of everything else going on. And also leaving it towards the end of the day was grand and great. I go ahead and leave them private. And then go ahead and at the end of the night, before I go to sleep, go ahead and reflect on my days in the comment section. Or not the comment section, the description. So it's like a redundant, it's a redundancy, but it goes ahead and cements what I've done, and it leaves me more aware to say, hey, make sure you are aware of stuff. At the end of the day, you're going to go ahead and document this stuff. And it's publicly and privately, but not everything publicly, and that's just the truth. Cherry picking exists. Anti-Fragile talked about it. People do it all the time. But I still want to share, even cherry picking some of my losses, if not all of them. Except it can't be absolute because it's not in the moment. So, yeah. Anyways, see ya.